Hello and welcome to Frank Fridays. My name is Karline Moeller and I'm the founder of Art Frankly. I'd like to introduce you to my co-host, Ellie Hayworth, who started Hayworth Consultancy, a business that is committed to promoting intrepid ideas at the intersection of art and design. Today, we are chatting with Mitra Khorasheh and Bridget Holyk Casey. Mitra is the founder and curator of Signs and Symbols Gallery, and Bridget is the director. We are big fans of this gallery's program, and we are excited to hear more about the gallery's recent move and what's in store for 2022. Ellie, I'll let you get this interview started.
Amazing, thank you. And Bridget and Mitra, it's so much fun to be talking with you guys today.
Yeah, of course.
So ladies, maybe we can just start with the very basics. I'd love if both of you could just tell us a little bit about just what decision prompted you to go into the arts. And maybe you can take us in brief through your career path until you arrived at Signs and Symbols.
Well, so I always kind of knew I wanted to be a curator. That's kind of the path I set to accomplish. I had a little bit of a gap when I lived in Mexico for 3 years. I was working in the music industry. Then I kind of quickly came back to arts, moved to New York. Then I started as an independent curator and then kind of decided to open my own gallery.
Amazing.
I studied art history on a whim in high school, and then I kind of rediscovered it in college. And actually, my very first internship in the arts was with Mitra.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. So then after that, I had a couple other jobs for a couple of years, and then when she opened the gallery, I was really excited about it, and then I came over here.
I love that. I love that. Well, Mitra, maybe we can take it to the kind of genesis of Signs and Symbols. I've had the benefit of knowing you for a number of years.
Yeah,
and I've seen it kind of grow and evolve, but maybe you can just tell us a little bit about what prompted you to found the gallery. And Bridget, perhaps what excited you about the gallery's program and therefore brought you to Signs and Symbols.
Yeah. I mean, so when I was curating independently, I was focused on a lot of performance work.
Sure.
And I just kind of realized this need, this kind of like gap for performance in the gallery world, right? Performance has had a lot of institutional support, a lot of, foundational support, but not really any gallery kind of focuses and highlights performance. So that's kind of where it started. And, as an independent curator, I'm sure you also know, like one of the hardest things in New York is finding space, right?
Yes.
It takes more time to find a space and secure a venue than actually doing the curatorial work. So it came to a point that I'm like, you know what, and I had all of these amazing, wonderful artists that I was working with. So I'm just like, we need to have a permanent space. Yeah. So that's kind of where it all started.
Yeah. And I respect that so much because I do think people ascribe, we have the performing arts with kind of a capital P and a capital A. And so everyone associates the performing arts with having like a home, if you will. And yet I feel like performance in the fine art world is a much more kind of roving practice. So I love the idea that Signs and Symbols became kind of a hub and a home for the artists that otherwise may have been participating more in nomadic projects. So yeah, I love that mandate.
Like every exhibition at Signs and Symbols has to have a live performative element. So even if the artist is not a performance artist, they're time-based media artists, they'll collaborate, bring in a musician, it'll have some sort of live.
And so Bridget, how did you become familiar with Signs and Symbols and what drew you to the program?
Well, after interning with Mitra, I stayed in touch and I actually photographed some of her performances that she was organizing, like Rachel Liebeskind. So I was always really interested in the artists that she was working with, especially living artists and younger and emerging artists. I thought that working with artists at that stage of their career was just so much more exciting, and you're really making a history and like making a niche rather than just working with older and more established artists.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I certainly, as someone who's attended a lot of the openings and been privy to some of these performances, you guys had truly a gem of a space in the Lower East Side, but there's a new milestone on your horizon. You guys opened a new gallery with a fantastic, large group curated show. So maybe you can speak a little bit, Mitra, from the perspective of a gallery founder. And Bridget, I would also love to hear your insights. Just what prompted the move to a new space, and just how are some of the opportunities materializing differently, and what are maybe some of the challenges?
Yeah. I mean, you saw our old space. It was, we loved it, but it was tiny. But even with our limited space, like every exhibition really, really transformed the space. You know, we had gender nights ballet with hammocks, or we had like 450 balloons in the space, you know, to a point that we couldn't even use the restroom.
Yes.
So it was really fun. And I think it allowed us to really, you know, go all in for every exhibition and really transform the space. But then I think it just, when artists came to their, you know, we have 20 artists, right? So once we got through everyone's first solo, and then artists were doing their second solo, we had 2 second solos in the space. It's just, we realized that they need a bigger, like they need a bigger space, they need a bigger challenge. Like we kind of outgrew it. And then to be
That's
honest,
a good problem to have, by the way.
Yeah, we outgrew that space. And then the neighborhood also, like, I love Forsyth Street. Lyles and King was right next to us. Like it was a nice little community. We had a park across the street. It was just really nice. But then when we closed during COVID and reopened, like it was August, it had changed, right?
I
And
understand that.
Isaac moved, so it was just us there, and it just really kind of became this, like you could feel it, you know.
So tell us a little bit more about the new gallery. Where is the location? What can we come to expect?
So it's almost 4 times the space.
Okay.
It's big, you know. Our bathroom is actually, you know, doubled up as a dressing room for performers instead of our old bathroom. So it's kind of nice, you know, all the performers can rehearse there, have a dressing room. It's wooden floors, which the dancers love. Like that was the first thing, because the old space was concrete, you know, this is kind of more, it's right on East Houston. What I really love about it is it's right next to Participant Inc., who is like a nonprofit. Their program is very similar to ours.
It feels synergistic.
Yeah, it's kind of, it feels really nice. And a lot of our artists have shown there, you know. It's just really, really nice. And it kind of feels like, we were talking about this yesterday, like it feels like old New York. Like,
I love that.
You know, like an old Soho area kind of. Yeah, but we're still in the Lower East Side community, you know, so we're still not too far from all our old neighbors and, you know.
Well, maybe you can speak a little bit to, so the exhibition, the inaugural show was then, this is now, which feels very apropos of all of the things that we've just talked about. Maybe you can give us just kind of a brief synopsis of what the show is, the themes you're treating and some of the works that are in the show.
So there's no specific theme. It's just kind of like, it just celebrates our growth and community. You know, it's all the artists, 17 of the artists.
Okay.
Then Jonah Beaucaire performed on the opening night. He was the inaugural performance. And it's basically a new work from every single artist. And it's kind of in the series of what their solo show is going to be.
I see. So it's almost like a preface of what's to come.
Kind of like a preview, or kind of like a survey little of our roster and our program. Yeah.
Well, that's exciting. Well, I look forward to visiting the new space. I haven't had the opportunity yet, but it seems like it was very well received on opening night.
Oh, it was amazing. I mean, I'm still overwhelmed, and you know, I think I had a good cry for 2 days.
You know what? That's quite cathartic. I think that's a good move.
Yeah. And we could have dinners in the gallery now. Like, you remember all the artist dinners were always at my house.
I know, which were very special, by the way. So I do have to say there was something really beautiful about that. But I'm looking forward to being able to activate the space in different ways.
Yeah, no, for sure. Now we can have 20 people seated dinners, like right in the middle.
That's really exciting, ladies. Well, we like to direct attention to kind of the second half of the interviews about a little bit more professional practice and just insights and advice for forthcoming or, you know, aspirational arts professionals. So maybe each of you, Bridget, we can start with you, can tell us what is one thing that you do every day that you feel is critical to the support of the gallery's operations?
Well, I always joke that there's a CV update every day.
That's a great problem to have.
Yeah, and there's it's just about keeping on top of everything and managing every artist's career and their records and our records. Especially the dream is that in 30 years, we're not wondering, when was that? Are there images from that? Everything's organized and you just maintain it every day. So you're ready for the future.
Yeah, that sounds like a great recipe for success. And Mitra, what is something you do every day that you think is contributing to your success?
I mean, I'm constantly on the phone with these 20 artists that are all
That's
over
fair.
the world. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
so
fair. It's a
you know,
large artist liaison role.
it's a large liaison role. I mean, yeah. And it's not just about like their careers, it's their personal issues and, you
Of
know,
course.
everything. Yeah.
Of
So
course.
I don't feel like it ever ends. It's not like a 9 to 5. It's, you know, when you have artists in South Africa and Germany and all over the world, you can't go to bed with your phone on silent.
I understand that very much. What is one piece of advice that you guys would offer, either a young, new aspirational arts professional or someone who's looking to get into the industry?
I would say trust your eye.
Yeah.
Trust your eye, trust your gut, trust your eye, and believe in the work that you're showing. You know, and don't listen to anyone else, just really trust yourself. Because if I was, you know, we always joke about this, like if I would listen to all the criticism that I get, I would only be working with figurative painters.
That's fair.
You know,
That's really fair.
yeah.
What about you, Bridget?
Yeah, I would say to like be generous with your time or your resources, whatever you might have, and to focus on building relationships and community rather than competition.
Yeah, I think that's great. You may have alluded to the answer, or this could be one way to respond to this question, but we like to just hear when you're not physically at Signs and Symbols or representing something that's happening at Signs and Symbols, what are you reading? What are you doing? What galleries are you visiting to stay in the know?
I too, it's hard, but to make a little time to like go out to other galleries, especially it's nice when they're like a block away. You can just like go see a couple and to like support their shows and see what they're working on, what artists they're looking at. I do a lot of that on the Lower East Side, but then I also try to go to like the Whitney New Museum, staying on top of what's happening.
Well, what about you, Mitra?
I mean, I'll try to do studio visits if I'm not on the phone, you know, and
when
I
I'm
mean,
not
before, if before COVID, I used to actually like be able to travel and, you know,
of course,
I would go to Germany a lot. Tony's based in Iowa.
I think that's another great way to continue. Also, I think to your point of honing your eye, I think the more you visit the artists actually practicing in their respective spaces, I think you also continue to learn a little bit more about what distinguishes quality art.
Yeah. And I mean, each one of them, they're so different and like all of their practices are very conceptual. So I mean, every time there's a new show, I have a new reading list.
Yeah.
You know, it's like kind of getting in their head.
It's research.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Well, ladies, we're returning to a world that feels somewhat normal, obviously in post-pandemic era. 2022 is upon us. I'm curious, what is one thing that you guys are looking forward to in the forthcoming year?
I mean, we have 2 books that are in the work.
Okay.
Sarah Entwistle is working on a book and she'll have her US book launch soon. Jen Denike, we just launched her first book. It's a 2-series book. Her second book is in the works. So we're kind of like having a lot of book launches coming up. Annabelle has 2 museum shows coming up, which is really exciting. And I'm just really, really looking forward to all these solo shows coming up with the artists actually being able to come here. Because since COVID, we've only been able to have, you know, our US based artists present, you know, and I think it's such an important thing to, you know, have our international artists come. And like, that's the thing I miss the most is like, you know, having Sarah or Adam or Benoit here for their shows rather than, you know, sending a crate.
Yes, no, absolutely. I think there's far more kind of personal quotient when you have the artist in the space.
Yeah.
And we can have live performances again. We had our first
one in
a year with Jonah Bocara during the opening. So now we can start doing that again, which is really exciting.
That's amazing. Well, it does sound like there's a lot to look forward to in 2022. I hope to attend some of them. So ladies, keep the invites coming. I will certainly make my way to New York timed to some of those openings. But I think it's really exciting that you guys have just expanded and are growing as a gallery. And it's been a lot of fun to chat with you today and just to hear a little bit more about Signs and Symbols.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you.